In my hand, I have 2 Big Macs. Now, what can these possibly be related to? Well, you're about to find out. I need 2 volunteers, one who hasn't eaten lunch, Nathan, I know you haven't, and one who has. Jake, you can come on. So, how many of you in this room have ever experienced a runner's high or something like that? Like when you're exercising, something like that? All right, so most of you. How many of you have ever enjoyed fast food like McDonald's? Or how many of you have ever forgotten anything in your life? So, all of these things are clearly experiences which we all feel and all happen to us on a regular basis. And they're all regulated in part by the same system, the endocannabinoid. Now, my 2 volunteers will each have a Big Mac and a carrot. So, Nathan, you didn't eat lunch, that's correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I want you to take a bite out of the carrot and tell me how good it tastes.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. So it's pretty good, but it's not great.
It's pretty good.
Jake, same thing. I'll assume that means it's pretty good too. All right, now take a bite out of Big Mac.
Oh, ball.
I can't understand.
It's so ball.
There it is. All right. So, Jake, and I'm guessing you like the Big Mac too. But Nathan, if you were to rate this experience next to any other thing, where would it be?
Like another Endocannabinoid.
Yeah, something else that's really good.
I don't know. It's like kind of highlight of my day right now.
And this is an important example of the endocannabinoid system at work. See, Nathan did not eat lunch, and to him, the highlight of the day is eating this Big Mac. And the reason it tastes so good is because he's hungry, and that regulates a level of a certain neurotransmitter called endocannabinoids. And those neurotransmitters helped his food taste that much better, especially fatty foods like Big Macs. Notice the carrot he said was pretty good, but the Big Mac highlighted his day. Yeah, you guys can see that now. So basically, to understand endocannabinoids, you need to understand neurons first. Can I have someone come up here and hold these 2 like this? Awesome. Right here. So, yeah, just like this. So here we have 2 neurons, and basically, when one of these neurons is stimulated right here, like for instance, if this is in your finger and your finger gets pinched, and then that's a pain signal from this neuron, it travels along this, which is called the axon, as an electrical impulse. And then it releases neurotransmitters in this area in between the neurons called the synapse. And the neurotransmitters go from this cell, the presynaptic cell, to this cell, the postsynaptic cell. And then when this cell receives those transmissions, it then fires another action potential along its axon, and it goes along to the next neuron. But with endocannabinoids, they travel in the opposite direction, and that's one of the things that makes them so unique as neurotransmitters, is that most go this way, but endocannabinoids go the opposite way. And that's just an interesting way of how they sort of do this retrograde signaling. And it's really cool and something a little different. Yeah, David?
So then where is the signal generated? It's not generated in the presynaptic.
It's actually in the postsynaptic neuron right here when it receives the neurotransmitters. It then produces endocannabinoids that go backwards and inhibit further signaling from this neuron. It's kind of complex, but I'll get into that a little later. So the basic structure of endocannabinoids is it's a neurotransmitter, and there's 2 major ones in the human body called anandamide and 2-arachidonoglycerol, but it can just be abbreviated 2-AG. And their structure is very similar to THC, which is the active component of marijuana, and that is the reason that THC affects our bodies the way it does. It's because our bodies have evolved this system which responds to natural neurotransmitters like anandamide and arachidonoglycerol, and THC structure is close enough that it can mimic and fit into the endocannabinoid receptors, sort of like a lock and key. It's sort of like picking the lock, in a way. And there are 2 known types of receptors in our bodies, and there's cannabinoid receptor 1, which is found mostly in our brain, and cannabinoid receptor 2, which is mostly in our body and our digestive tract. And that cannabinoid receptor 2 functions more with things like appetite and taste and like fullness. So endocannabinoids are involved in many, many different processes and functions of the human body. it's really incredible how much they can do, considering they really don't do a whole lot. They pretty much just go backwards across that synapse. Like earlier, they just go back and inhibit this neuron from firing more. And depending on what cell that is, it can have a wide variety of effects. Like for instance, with the pain cell, if it inhibited that, it would cause you to feel less pain, and that's responsible for some of the pain blocking effect that you feel when you have a runner's high. It's actually triggered by endocannabinoids. And that can be demonstrated in a lot of different ways, like it also helps you relax and sleep and forget things and all kinds of functions. So Austin, you can probably go back to nerves. And this is just another demonstration of a synapse and the neurotransmitters going between them. And in this one, this would probably be the presynaptic neuron, and it's releasing neurotransmitters into the synapse. And then this cell then receives it, and if there's endocannabinoids present, they would then go backwards across the synapse. So the endocannabinoid system has a lot of different locations throughout the brain and body, but they're primarily focused in the brain, especially with CB1 receptors, which are the main type, and they're responsible for the majority of the endocannabinoid activity. And while they vary greatly in the effects they can have upon your body, depending on where they are, there's 5 main components that endocannabinoids do, and I want you guys to write these down. They help your body relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. If anyone needs any of those, like repeat it again. So they help your body relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. And these functions are all pretty much associated because they're all things that you wouldn't be doing in an emergency situation. They wouldn't be something that you do as you're getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You wouldn't want to down a Big Mac and go to sleep. They're all things that you want to do in your downtime when you're just resting and you need to take care of your body and maintain it to stay healthy. So with sleep and relaxation, increased endocannabinoid activity helps your body relax primarily through stimulating the CB1 receptors in the brain. And a lot of them are in the hippocampus, the cerebellum, and the frontal lobe. And these regions of the brain are responsible for memory in terms of the hippocampus. The cerebellum is important in coordination and movement, and the frontal lobe is important in logical thought. And when you go to sleep and you have dreams, the logical thought center to your brain is actually pretty much turned off. So it would probably be a good guess that endocannabinoid activity prevents firing of nerves in the frontal lobe, preventing logical thought, and that helps you just relax, fall asleep, and then have dreams later on. And it also helps you relax probably through regulating different hormones called serotonin and cortisol. And serotonin is responsible for like relaxation and that sort of feeling, and cortisol is long-term stress. So endocannabinoids probably inhibit various neurons to increase serotonin levels and decrease cortisol levels in order to relieve stress and help people relax. And then obviously when you're in a relaxed state, it's a lot easier to sleep, and so those two functions are really linked very closely. But it also helps you a lot with your appetite, as we saw with Nathan and Jake. It really increases your appetite and mostly increases your desire for fatty foods. And I don't know if you could see this from the demonstration, but when you actually receive fatty foods, that signals your endocannabinoid system to want more fatty foods, because it sort of sends this signal to your brain that I'm having this like really delicious thing that's really rare in nature, and it's a really potent source of energy. And so it makes you want to eat more, and it makes your stomach expand, and you'll want to just get as much fat as you can because you don't know when you'll be having fat next. And so eating the fatty food actually increases the person's appetite because it decreases a hormone called leptin. Yeah.
So you said that fatty food makes you want to eat more. What if you eat a healthy food, like let's say asparagus?
It will a
Would
little
that...
bit, but not nearly as
Okay.
much. And so the hormones that are regulated through eating are leptin and ghrelin. Leptin suppresses your appetite and ghrelin increases it. And endocannabinoid activity along with these hormones can help to increase your appetite by lowering the levels of leptin, the hormone that suppresses your appetite, and increasing ghrelin, which increases your appetite and makes you hungrier, makes you want to eat more. Now, one of the most interesting facets of endocannabinoid activity on our brain is in one of the less obvious ways it affects us. Now, it regulates forgetting of all kinds, and it's not just forgetting normal things like what you had for breakfast this morning or what happened like a week ago, but it's also forgetting in terms of things that you usually wouldn't consider forgetting. It has a major function in updating memories and changing them and realizing new